Hi, everybody, and welcome back to lovely Suplizio Field here in Grand Junction, Colorado, bringing you into the Jimmy John's pregame show. I'm Joey Miller, the voice of the Jackalopes. One last time here at Suplizio Field. One more game, 9 more innings, and let's see if the Jackalopes can finish on top. They've won the last 2 games to get themselves the series advantage, 3-2, heading into the series finale on this Sunday afternoon. And in the booth with me for the final Jimmy John's pregame show, I have the skipper who just had a huge milestone last night, Frank Gonzales, heading into his 501st professional game managed. Frank, first off, congrats.
Thanks, Joey. Appreciate it.
And I'm glad that you could. Get that win, get that 500 on a win. So, looking at the series as a whole, I remember opening day here at Suplizio Field. Obviously not the best start. It was 0-5 against the Chuckers, but I remember talking to you before that game. We did that little interview, right?
Yep.
Talking about what the hopes were for this season. Now, some things happened, some things didn't. Let's start with what went well. Some of these power hitters that you brought in, that you changed into better hitters than they were in the first half, like Isaac Nunez and Mason Minzy, even Kendall Foster and Christian Castaneda down the stretch of this season. What went into developing those players down the stretch of the season that has made them so hot in this second half?
Well, I think just buying in. Robbie does a tremendous job. The support, the culture of the club. We're always an offensive team. Even when 16 and 17, when I ran the Rockies, it's about base running, being aggressive at the plate, working good counts. I think, staples like Evan Scavado, who has been part of our program for a couple years, leads the way. But yeah, the Minzies, the Castanedas, the Fosters. I think Nunez is one of the biggest turnarounds that you've seen. I think he was hitting, well under 200 for a big part of the beginning of the season, and we kept him in there. We had confidence in what he would do, and Robbie, my hitting coach and third base coach, does a heck of a job.
Absolutely. And now on for the tougher conversation, the pitching this year. You went through a lot of starters. One today is one of the only people in the starting rotation from the beginning of the season, Evan Massey. What has been the challenge this season? You're a pitching coach. You have been a pitching coach in affiliated ball. What's been the challenge, especially at a ballpark like this, to keep the positivity up with those starting pitchers of yours?
Yeah, I think baby steps is the key here. I mean, pitching in elevation is not easy. We can ask our sister club, our bigger brother down there in Denver, the Colorado Rockies. It's hard, man. I mean, pitching in elevation, it's a real thing. Understanding how the ball moves, the metrics involved. We have all the data and analytics, obviously, with TrackMan. Getting guys to buy in, to adjust, to be a different type of pitcher. Riley Egloff is an example of that. He went from being a four-seamer curveball type to a sinker slider, and we saw the progression of how he was going to turn into a top pitcher in the league, but then he got hurt. And we've had some mishaps with some injuries and some things that have gone on. But overall, I'm actually fairly pleased with the base of arms that we'll have. If we have them back next year, I feel like we'll be off to a good start with understanding what we expect from them.
Especially if you get Zach Zaborowski, Riley Egloff going up and running like they were at the beginning of this year. I mean, you think about it, we've only had one shutout this year, and that was against the Oakland Ballers, who are a team that are now over 40 games above 500. Sure, we only won 2 of those 6 games, but it's 2 more than a lot of teams this year have won. Despite the different offensive look that we had in that first road trip in California, you have certainly built this offense to be much better than that initial a road trip. But looking at the goals heading into this season, what were your goals? Which of them did you think that you achieved in your first season with the Jackalopes, and what's something that you're going to work on going into your second?
Well, I'll take it the other way. I think working on is making sure that we, continue to progress on the pitching side, finding the right mixes of guys that aren't afraid to pitch here and not afraid of contact and not afraid of putting themselves in good counts. I told all the pitchers, I said, listen, at the end of the day, working yourself in great counts, not putting extra traffic on the bases is really key at elevation, because the ball will go out of the ballpark. And so, number one, pitching is going to be the transformation that we'll have to make as we move forward. Offensively, numbers, culture, the type of players that we have, the grit that we have, and coming back from being 8, 9, 10 runs down all year long and still finding a way to win a game here and there, especially like last night. Tremendous effort in our guys, and I think that's something that we've accomplished this year. As you see the type of team we have and how hard we go about it even when we're down.
Yeah, and it really seems like, especially in this series, you go down 10 runs to 4 in the first 3 innings, but then you bounce back in like those 1 or 2 innings. It was an 8-run rally last night in the top of the 4th, and then the night before it was 13 insurance runs in the 7th and the 8th inning that really got them going, that added some confidence for this bullpen. And might I say, speaking of the bullpen, Reese Miller, for the guy that he has become this season, compared to what you saw of him last year and only, 15 innings pitched, what can you say about the transformation of the boogeyman himself, Reese Miller?
What a great nickname. I love it. I mean, he's a unique individual in terms of how he handles his energy level and his, the internals for him are really, really good in really tight situations when he pitches in those situations like last night. Eventually, you're going to give up a home run here. He left a slider up to a left-handed hitter, and he hit a 2-run homer. But my gosh, he didn't vibrate. He stayed in the game to finish it and get his save. But he's a real deal guy. I think there's a lot of interest from other clubs and hopefully major league organizations as he moves along. Couldn't be more proud of how Reese handles the game and how he has pitched and performed this year.
I know you had to ward off a lot of calls from other teams in this league who were asking about him. But it seemed like he is really attached to you and your coaching style, and it has clearly helped him progress. 30 strikeouts in his first season, and now after last night, 73 for over 100 strikeouts in his career, all under you with the Northern Colorado Owls and the Grand Junction Jackalopes. Taking that jump from the Northern Colorado Owls, which is technically the team that you're facing today, the Colorado Springs Sky Sox with the name change. Coming back to Grand Junction, I asked this to you on opening day, how it felt to be back at Suplizio Field. Now that you have a season to reflect, what's different? What have you enjoyed coming back in your return to Grand Junction after your first seasons in 2016 and 2017?
Yeah, it's probably the easiest transition I've had in my tenure, the last 12 or 13 coaching at the professional level, 10 with the Rockies and then the last 3 in the Pioneer. It's been an easy transition. Obviously, going through the Owls process and their building of a complex and then the failing of it, it was tough, But coming here, I felt like it was an easy transition. It felt like home. The office and the desk and some of the artwork were the same since 2016, so it was really easy for me to feel like I'm back where I need to be. And I love this ballpark. I love the community. I love representing the Jackalopes and the Grand Junction history of baseball here. And so pretty easy for me to be here. Would love to do it again.
Yeah, and also down the stretch of this season, we're obviously out of playoff contention, and we still have 12 games after this to go on the road in Montana and Colorado Springs. What have you been saying to these guys to keep the energy up and try and finish on a high note, especially in today's contest in front of the Grand Junction crowd?
I think it's huge. I think finishing this thing out, with some good wins against quality clubs out there, the Missoula Club, the Billings Club, and obviously Colorado Springs. They're all good teams. Anybody can beat anybody at any moment. I really want to try and show well. I want the guys to take what they've learned and really let it come out and play loose, but yet play with some intent. And I think if we do that, we'll surprise a couple clubs. I think that offensively we're going to be a treat if we can keep it. My lucky number in the Pioneer League 7. So anytime we throw balls out there and give up less than 7, we have a chance every night.
Well, there is a 7 on the jersey of today's starter, Evan Massey, who has also made a bit of a transformation throughout this season. He's had some highs, he's had some lows, but it seems like when he gets that early run support is when he can build that confidence. He's going to give up a few runs early in this contest. That has been consistent in his first 15 starts. But heading into today, what are the keys to the game? What are the goals for finishing this final homestand on a victory?
Yeah, I think Evan's the right guy. I think he wants as much as anybody. He probably realizes it could be his last start in Grand Junction. He's a guy that could come back We don't know for sure what his plans are. We want him to continue to move on if he wants to pitch. But my gosh, it could be his last start. So I'm sure he's emotional and he wants to leave it on a good note. So I'm excited and confident that Evan will put us in a place after the 5th inning that we can hang on and hopefully get to the back end of our bullpen.
Absolutely. And also, you found so many diamonds in the rough this season, some real gems that you pulled mid-season. Spence Kaufman is one that I'm thinking of right now. Tristan Wolfe came from right here in the press box. You pulled him from the press box. He appeared last night. He got himself a scoreless inning. It is a real testament to your ability to scout and recruit certain talents when the season started to look dire. Obviously, we had a tough schedule right off the jump against some of the best offenses in the league, like the Idaho Falls Chuckers. But I commend you for being able to find that talent. How do you do it?
Well, it's one of those things. I trust my staff. I trust, our eyes and recommendations and having relationships around the game. Talking to the farm director or the assistant farm director with the Padres after I heard that Kaufman was let go. He actually reached out through LinkedIn to Robbie. And I told Robbie, I said, why are we going to sign a guy that you heard off of LinkedIn? So I immediately called the Padres folks, and they said, you got a great kid there. He needs more time. He's young. We forget that Spence Kaufman is 21 with about 2.5 to 3 years of playing experience. Very, very competitive kid, and those types of kids, including the Tristan Wolfes of the world, we feel like we can bring out more in them. And Tristan has become a staple in our back end of our bullpen, which is great.
And you found him right here. You just gave him the opportunity. You said, here's a bullpen. And he was hitting 90. He was hitting his spots. And in his debut against this very team last month, he threw a gem of an 8th. He allowed 1 on, but faced 4, struck out the last guy. And that was such a storybook moment in a storied season in your first season. Thinking back to the initial 83 games, now heading into the 84th, is there a moment that stands out, either here or on the road, maybe a story on or off the diamond that is one of your favorites from this season?
My gosh, there's so many. I think guys that, hit their first homer, get their first strikeout, the 100 RBI guys that we have on the team, guys that are now solidly into the well over 300 benchmark, and their season's going to end up great. That makes you feel good. The wins and losses are what they are, but we have some guys on this team. We've had several organizations call us and say, hey, we'd like to bring these guys into playoff opportunities, and I'll be honest with you, most of our guys turn it down, including the Reese Millers of the bunch. So, I think all those accolades and all those stories really come together to make it what makes us unique, and the culture is great in our clubhouse, and you've been in our clubhouse a bunch. Guys love being in there. Guys love hanging out with each other. I feel like we have a really solid relationship with everybody, and that's what's meaningful to me.
I agree, and this coaching staff that you've built, that you brought from the Northern Colorado Owls, Carter Linton in his first professional season, Robbie Bales heading here, back to Grand Junction for the first time since 2005, 2006, when he was coaching high school ball out here. You look back to, yes, you were above 500 last year. You didn't make a playoff spot, nor did you make one here. It's a bit of a different look, some growing pains this year. What is the key for next year? What are you looking for in recruiting for next year?
Well, you got to start with the pitching. And I think, we've got 5 or 6 arms that no doubt are going to be impactful in this league. They're still learning. They're still getting along. Riley Egloff wants to come back. The Zaborowskis of the world, if he can get healthy. Nathan Shin, we traded to go give him an opportunity to pitch in the Idaho Falls potential run there. And he beat Missoula the other night, but we get him back as well. There's a lot of good pieces here. You don't know what's going to happen to an Isaac Nunez. You're not sure, Spence Kaufman is going to do it again with us or elsewhere. But those are the kind of guys we got to have back. That's the staple. That's the core. And I think if we get 10 or 12 of those back and add some really important pieces, especially on the mound, we're going to be a team that'll be right where we need to be.
I agree. I truly think that there's a bright future in Grand Junction, especially heading into next year where it's going to be a different look. But as long as you're here, I think it's going to be a stellar season. And now that you've kind of had your feet wet here in a different look in the Pioneer League. You spent 3 years in affiliated ball, now 3 years in unaffiliated ball. As a manager, of course, you've had more in affiliated ball. In your first 3 years in this new Pioneer League, what can you say about the future of the Pioneer League right now?
Well, there's transitions happening everywhere in this league. I think the key is that there are affiliates that are going to happen, you know, in other parts of our league, whether that's in California or other parts of the Mountain States. I think teams are gonna rename or they're gonna rebuild. But really, at the end of the day, the player level has changed a lot in the last 2 years. Believe it or not, pitching is better. It's hard to find. The teams that have stayed together, the Missoulas of the world, the Oakland Ballers, the Yolo has had a nice run. Idaho Falls was not a team at the top. They were at the bottom last year, and now they are. They have rekindled and brought back a lot of their players. And I think that continuity is what makes teams great, being able to have that structure and rebuild from what you've started the year before. 23, we were just okay when I took on the Owls. 24, we were in the top 3 in the league in records. So, we need a year. And I think in the next couple of years, we're a championship club.
I agree. And now the anthem's starting up. You got a game to manage, Frank. 5:01 coming up next. Let's finish this homestand out on a high note. That's been the Jimmy John's pregame show. I'm Joey Miller. We'll be right back on the Jackalopes Media Network.